Bienvenidos, aloha, and welcome into Sunset Rewind. Alex Crawford, former Oregon State tight end Howard Kroom here with you. It is week 0. Well, week 0 is over. It's week 1. Every Sunset League team has played a game, and Friday Night Lights are back, baby. Howard, let's just jump right into it. I don't want to waste any time. Let's run through all the games, starting off with Fountain Valley. The Barons sit right now atop the Sunset League standings, 1-0 with a 14-6 win over the Valencia Tigers. Owen Tomko had a touchdown pass, and Ben Pham punched it in with a short touchdown run.
Well, you know, I picked Fountain Valley as my most improved in the Sunset League. I didn't pick a player, I just picked the team. Everything we've heard about Fountain Valley has been positive for the last few weeks, and here we are, first game of the season. They delivered. As you said, Owen Tomko in his very first start looked good, managed the game well, was poised out there. Kane Elroy had a huge night at the will linebacker position, and at the Mike linebacker, Jacob Stinnett, transfer from the state of Kansas, had a huge night as well. Coach was really happy with the physicality from the whole defense. And Coach Gutierrez told us that he really loved what the defensive backs did. They were in man coverage all night. They held up, like we said, didn't give up any points through 3 quarters. So that's a team that's going to come into game 2 and week 1, and they're going to have a ton of confidence and look to build on a first week win.
Well, Coach Gutierrez, taking over the program just about a month ago, talked about 2 of the cornerstones he's trying to build are Blue Pride, which obviously Fountain Valley's color is blue and yellow, but also he wants to build a blue-collar work ethic there at Fountain Valley, and then physical football. And they came right out of the gates. They did exactly what Coach Gutierrez wanted them to do. And here's quarterback Owen Tomko actually praising the coaching staff in an interview with our reporter Taryn Rodriguez after the game.
What were the keys to the victory tonight?
I would just say coaching staff won. Coaching staff, like new coaches, first-time coaches, brought in like 4 weeks ago, and really have started to turn this program around.
Yeah, Howard, you called it. Fountain Valley going to be the most improved team. I'm so impressed. I'm so happy for these kids. They're exponentially better in the win-loss column than they were 0-6 in the COVID season. And what I'm especially stoked on is the way that they are buying into Coach Gutierrez's program. I know it's way too early, but I think they made the right hire. I'm really excited for what they're building there at Fountain Valley High School.
A lot of good energy. Everybody's feeling positive. A lot of optimism in Fountain Valley, and we're excited to watch them all year.
Let's go to another team that's 1-0. As expected, the Los Alamitos Griffins beat down the Bakersfield Drillers 65-18. Malachi Nelson 4 touchdown passes. Mekhi Lemon had 2 TDs. He had a long kick return and a long touchdown reception in that one. No surprise there from Los Al.
This is what we expected them to do. Excellent team. We talked about it a lot last season. They had state championship aspirations. That's going to carry on to this year. We know that Malachi Nelson and Mekhi Lemon were co-MVPs of Sunset League. These guys are coming back hungry. Even though everybody knows about them, you'd think, okay, if there's a receiver that's MVP of the league, let's just double team them. You can't. There's too many guys. There's Alec Wills, Ethan O'Connor, DeAndre Moore, a new kid that's a transfer, a 5-star prospect. So there's so much talent in the receiving core. And you said Mekhi Lemon had a kick return touchdown. Producing in all phases of the game. Talent everywhere. They're going to be tough, and we look for them to not just win games, but dominate. So putting up 65 points is kind of what we expect to see out of them.
Absolutely. The campaign for the state championship began on the right note for Los Alamitos. Playmakers everywhere. Like you said, playmakers everywhere. So it's going to be really tough, whoever faces them in the Sunset League and whoever faces them this season. Let's go down to Corona Del Mar. They open up the season with a win. They're one of 3 1-0 Sunset League teams. Sea Kings 36-20 over the Downey Vikings. David Razor, 3 touchdown passes, 1 rushing TD. And then I want to give credit to Colin Penne, who filled in for the injured Evan Sanders. He had 25 rushes, 127 yards in his CDM varsity debut. Here's Coach Dan O'Shea talking about Penne, who made his first Friday Night Lights appearance on Friday.
He's just a different kid, and we weren't sure he was 100% ready. It's like, okay, he's not going to be Evan Sanders, this, that, you're right, first game. But as soon as the game was going, after 5 or 6 carries, it's like, I've never once seen that in practice, meaning when the lights went on, he was the best we've ever seen since he's been in camp with us.
Usually when your first team running back goes down, he's a guy in Evan Sanders that was all Sunset League last year. When you lose a guy like that, that's a huge blow to your offense. Luckily, Dan O'Shea has a guy like Penne at his disposal. Put him in, give him the ball 25 times, and watch what he does with it. So you got to feel good if you're Corona Del Mar about that. And we heard excellent things about the passing game and David Razor. As you said, David Razor accounted for 4 touchdowns in the first half, put up 27 points, 3 passing touchdowns, 1 rushing touchdown. I know Cooper Hope caught 2 touchdowns. Max Lane caught a touchdown. So really, really productive night from the CDM receivers, the whole offensive passing game. Also, their defense was sturdy. Pitched a shutout in the first half, gave up a couple of plays to Downey late in the second half, but all in all, they did what they needed to do to pick up a win on the road and feel good about themselves. Also tied at the top of the conference at 1-0.
Well, I think the thing about CDM that we learned, and maybe we should have already known, was that it doesn't matter who's in the jersey, what the name on the back of the jersey is. It's about the name on the front. It's about CDM's. It's Dan O'Shea's we, not me, us, not I, and they proved it right out of the gate. New receiver. We said who's going to step up at the receiver position? Cooper Hogue, John Tipton, right out of the gate, 3 touchdowns combined between those two. So I think the Sea Kings, I feel like I'm eating crow a little bit because I feel like I was sleeping on them coming into the season, and they're legit. That's one of the few things I think I know heading into week 1 or game number 2 is that I shouldn't have slept on the Sea Kings for a minute.
Well, we know Coach O'Shea is going to have his guys ready. We heard the penalties were limited. They looked good. The Sea Kings looked good in offense, defense, special teams, all 3 phases of the game. That's what we expect out of them.
Let's move on to the Huntington Beach Oilers. They led 14-0 heading into the 4th quarter. They ended up losing that game 28-20. Defense pitching a shutout through 3 quarters, but the wheels kind of came off there at the end. So a tough loss for Brett Brown's squad.
Huntington Beach was missing some key players. They were banged up at multiple positions. Hideo Ray, one of the biggest parts of their offense and defense, he was out with a leg injury. So look for him to make a big impact in next week's game. But when you're missing a guy who you expect to get 9 or 10 catches a game, you're going to miss some offensive production. Also missing left tackle Trent Light, huge part of the offense, a guy that they expect to be a leader. He'll be back next week. Other pieces on the O-line were banged up as well. So this is a team, and missing Castro, one of their best defensive backs. So it was a team that was a little bit undermanned. Still, Huntington Beach put up a good performance, and we expect for them to bounce back. A.J. Perez, he'll get some good protection next week. Hideo Ray will provide a safety net, some checkdowns for the quarterback, but we have to give credit to A.J. Vandermeer. He was a sophomore last year, stepped up big and made big plays in the spring season, but he filled in for Hideo Ray, had 9 catches, scored a touchdown. He was a big part of what they did. And obviously Tyler Moses, the MVP from last season, we always expect him to play well. He did, but he had a lot of attention. He's playing receiver, not just playing defense, and the defense knows they want to go to Moses, especially with Hideo Ray out. So he saw a lot of double teams, didn't get a lot of looks on the offensive end, but he did have a 30-yard touchdown. That was big for the Oilers. So look for them to get healthy next week and continue to improve.
Yeah, just like the Edison Chargers aren't a team that I expect to get blown out the way they did. I know we'll talk about that in a second. I don't think the Huntington Beach Oilers are the team that we saw on Friday night against Aliso Niguel. I think we've yet to see their best performance, or really even their most mediocre performance. I think we saw, a diet Huntington Beach team. I'm excited to see them at full strength, and we had the chance to talk to head coach Brett Brown, and we asked him, what's your message for the team heading into game number 2?
I told him last night, I said, I think this loss could be a blessing in disguise. We've been getting a little bit of hype, and we're not necessarily used to that, and people are talking about us and have some players to watch, and I think it kind of brought us back down to earth, that we got to continue to work every day.
And Howard, I put a little bit of that blame on us because we really hyped up the Oilers in our season preview. We talked about their depth at wide receiver being a strength. Then they lose their number 1 wide receiver. So I love Brett Brown. I love his message to the team. I believe he's going to get things, I shouldn't even say heading in the right. It's week 1. I don't want to overreact, but I do put a little bit of the blame on Sunset Rewind for overhyping the Oilers.
Well, they'll bounce back. A lot of senior leaders on that team. They're ready for this moment. So they dropped game 1, but we expect for them to continue to improve and have a lot of wins this season in Sunset League.
Let's head down to Newport Beach. The Newport Harbor Sailors were on the road at Yorba Linda. They spotted the Mustangs a 19-0 lead heading into the 4th. Newport Harbor scores 14 unanswered in the 4th, but the Mustangs hang on to win 26-14. Reaction to that game. We got to call that game, so we watched the whole thing start to finish. What'd you think, Howard?
Well, it was just a classic case of too little, too late. Newport Harbor felt a little sloppy early. They were trying to get their footing from special teams to offense to defense. They just couldn't really get their bearings. It took a little while, but once stuff started to click, it looked really good. Now, it wasn't all bad early. There were glimpses. You know, Duke Starnes, he had some great looks at it, had some tough catches in the first half. Cashton Hingham, Nick Kim kept going Cashton Hingham's way, but the defense of Yorba Linda, they were bossing a safety over to his side of the field, changing up from press to soft coverage, just trying to make it difficult. I think Newport Harbor didn't play their best game, but the real team, who they are, is the team we saw in the fourth quarter. It's a senior group in terms of Nick Kim leading the way. He'll be comfortable next week, and they'll have confidence from how they ended the game, and they'll be fine for the rest of the season, I believe.
Yeah, that's a team. We talked to Coach Lofthouse earlier today. He's talking about we got to get them to play more than just one quarter of football, but I believe, as you said, that team in the fourth is the real Newport Harbor Sailors team. They'll be at home against Marina on Thursday. I'm excited to see how they progress from that loss to Yorba Linda. Let's go down to the Edison Chargers. They were supposed to play Venice High School. Game was canceled, and they went ahead. Jeff Grady stepped up to the plate and scheduled one of the best teams in the state, the Servite Friars. And as he said when we talked to him this morning, he said baptism by fire. It was baptism by Friar, and they got beat down 54-14. But I respect Coach Grady because I respect him for scheduling the Friars because they're not playing just to win week one. They're playing to win the Sunset League. And so the kids are going to grow so much from that game and that loss at the Santa Ana Bowl.
Well, Coach Grady, you have to respect the decision because he's playing to go to the playoffs at the end of the year. He's playing to, see what kind of competition his team can handle. So to take on a team like Servite, there's multiple Power 5 recruits. A lot of guys are committed. Their quarterback, Noah Fafita, he's already committed to Arizona. So you're going to play against guys who are big, strong, and fast. So credit to Edison. And it wasn't all bad. They did some stuff that was good. Parker Awad, the transfer quarterback from Mater Dei, he found some holes in the tight defense and tight coverage, found Nico Brown for a deep touchdown, found Tyler Hampton for 6 catches, including a touchdown. So there were things that the Edison Chargers are going to take away and they're going to feel good about, and they're probably not going to see that kind of competition. We know they're not going to see it week in, week out. They may not see it again this season. So it's only going to go up from there. And I think these kids are going to take some positives away, and it's going to boost their confidence. Even though it might feel bad today, they'll feel good about it, and they'll learn from it.
Well, talking about baptism by fire, 4 new starters on the offensive line for Edison. And when you talk about they're not going to see that kind of competition week in, week out, they might see it again this season when they face Los Al, and that's the team they need to beat to win league. So I love it. And my big takeaway from talking to Coach Grady, I was like, oh, that's so cool that you guys stepped up and scheduled the Trinity League team on a short week. And he said, this might not be the only time that happens this season with COVID going on. There's going to be shuffling. We're going to see teams having to, do you want to not play a game or do you want to play whoever you can get? So he said, get used to it. This wasn't a big deal. Like, we just have to be ready to play whoever, no matter what the prep time is. So I don't think that's the first time or the last time we're going to see that from a Sunset League team this season. That's all the week 0 games. Final thoughts. 1 game in the books. 3 1-0 teams, 3 0-1 teams. What stands out to you from this first week?
Final thoughts are anything is possible. Friday Night Lights, you never know what's going to happen. So not everybody expected Fountain Valley maybe to come out and get a win, but they looked great, played with a ton of confidence. Coach Gutierrez changed up what they do offensively. They were more of a spread team last year. Last night we saw 3 or 4 different running backs, a tight end, an H-back, a lot of physical football. So you never know what's going to happen. You got to come out and play every game. Nothing is a given. I'm just excited to see as the season progresses, offenses will get tighter, defenses will get more in sync, because remember, even though we just played a spring season, and yeah, that's great, and it feels like everyone should be prepared for this year, that's not the case, because a lot of those guys from the spring graduated, and you're breaking in new starters, like you said, Edison on the offensive line, and those new guys didn't get a spring ball. So we're still working out the cobwebs, trying to get some of the kinks out, but all I know is anything can happen. I don't know who's going to win league, and I'm excited to watch every game week in and week out.
Yeah, I think my final thought is there's more that I don't know than I know. I know Los Al's legit. They did exactly what I expected, and I know CDM is, again, not rebuilding, just reloading. And other than that, I don't know. I still don't know who the Sailors are. I don't know who Edison is. I don't know who Huntington Beach is, and I don't know. I believe in Fountain Valley, but it was just 1 game. So there's still a lot to be learned. It was great to get a game in the books, though. I'm excited to have Friday Night Lights back.
And stadiums were packed. There was cheerleaders, there was parents, there were bands, the energy was there. So really happy to be back and can't wait for the rest of the season.
And here at Sunset Rewind, we've got some really cool things planned for the rest of the season. I can't wait to show everybody what we've been working on. We got a website coming soon. That's going to be powered by GoldenCom. If your website isn't working as hard as you want it to, please check out GoldenCom. Well, Howard, that does it for week 0. We'll be back in a week's time when we've got 2 games in the books. For my co-host Howard Kroom, for our crew here at the Sunset Rewind Studios, and for all the parents, players, and coaches in the Sunset League, this is Alex Crawford saying from the 405 to PCH, from Saddleback to the Pacific Ocean, you've been watching Sunset Rewind. Thanks for tuning in.